Hey, so this is just a quick comparison video of two Omegas I think a lot of people look at as an alternative to the old Moon watch, and that's the first Omega in space and the Speedmaster Reduced. Sizing on these watches, I think they both fit great. My wrists are about 6¼ inch wide radius. They're 6¼ inches, which means that they're probably smaller than your wrist. They're pretty skinny, but both of these watches fit me very well. The Reduced, it's I think listed maybe as 2 millimeters smaller just about, but it's almost not noticeable. If you're worried about the size of both of these watches, how they're going to look on your wrists, I don't think I would make it a big concern. I think the first Omega in space, even at its slightly larger size, wears just as well on a skinny wrist as the Reduced. I really like both of these movements. The first Omega in space has the same movement that's in the current production models of Moon watches, the 1861. First Omega in space is manual wind, the Reduced is an automatic manual wind. What that means is that the first Omega in space, you have to manually wind it throughout the day, which for me is great. I'm twitchy. I'm always fiddling with things on my desk, so that's just one more thing that I can fidget with. The automatic manual wind movement in the Reduced is also great because that, again, you can still manually wind it if you want, but it will also automatically wind itself throughout the day. The Reduced movement has a 40-hour power reserve. The first in space has a 48-hour reserve, so 8 more hours. The only thing I would say on the Reduced is don't expect it to be cheap to be serviced just because it's based on an ETA movement. You're still going to look at about $500 to $600 to get it serviced. Pricing of these watches can be the killer. It could be the decision maker for people. The Reduced you can find for anywhere from around $1,100 to about $2,000 on eBay, depending on which model you're going for. The first Omega in space, usually around the $3,100, $3,200 mark. You can find them for about $3,600 new from gray dealers too, like Joma Shop. But there's going to be a pretty big price difference between the Reduced and the first Omega in space. Also, the Reduced is no longer made, so if you're picking one up, you're going to have to find one off of a forum or eBay or a local watch dealer. But if you're picking up one from a local watch dealer, expect to pay probably closer to the $2,000 to $3,000 price range. If you want to wear a bracelet on your first Omega in space, this is also going to add to the price of the watch. To get an Omega one, it's 19mm lugs, so it kind of requires a special bracelet and special end links on the side. They're just a little bit harder to find than the regular ones. Used, if you're patient, sometimes you can find them between $200 to $400 on eBay or different watch forums. Otherwise, new, I think they run around the $500 to $700 range to get the correct bracelet and end links. So, which one would I get if I were you? Which one would I recommend? Would I buy if it were my own money? Well, I've had them both. I've had both these watches. I sold the Reduced to get the first Omega in space, and I'm keeping the first Omega in space. I really like it. I like it a lot. I think both of these watches, though, if I were going to recommend one, I'm not you, so I don't know what you want. But if I were to recommend one to somebody, I would have to know what they're looking for in a watch, I think. Because they're both great watches. They both stand well on their own merit. I like the movement in both of these watches. And I think they both look great. They're both Speedmasters. They both feel like they've got, this connection to NASA and the moon. I know the Reduced doesn't quite have the same connection, but it feels like it does. And I think that's important. I always felt like the Reduced was easier to read, felt more like a tool watch. It was easier to read because it has all white hands. The first Omega in space has these broad hands, which are awesome because they're just a really cool throwback to the Sigma 7 watch, the one that Wally Schirra wore. But they're a little bit harder to read at first glance because they're reflective. The Reduced also, the dials are a little bit smaller, a little bit smushed closer together than they are on the first in space, but I really didn't notice that until I had the watches side by side, so I wouldn't let that detract me from the Reduced either. I've owned both these watches. I kept the first Omega in space. I think that's just personal preference. So if I were you, I would just get the one that looks more appealing to me. You can probably find either one of these at a shop near you. Reduced, you'll find them at used dealers sometimes, and the first Omega in space sometimes you'll see at Omega boutiques. But I don't think you can make a wrong decision. I would say get the one that you like best. And then if you don't like it, sell it, because you could probably sell it close to what you got for, minus eBay and PayPal fees.